Among the greatest scenes in cinema is the opening sequence from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love everything Indiana Jones, so today I'm going to make the Chachapoyan Fertility Idol. There are a lot of ways that I can make the sculpture itself, but I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to use my new 3D printer. So I headed over to Thingiverse and I found several different models that would work, but I ended up settling on this one, mainly because it's hollow. Check out the description down below to find the link if you want to print this yourself. Now we just print it out. While we're waiting on that, I just wanted to tell you about the Chachapoyans. They're real people who lived in the Peruvian Andes about the same time as the Incas. In fact, the Incans conquered the Chachapoyans just before the European conquistadors showed up. The Chachapoyans are called the Cloud People, and an interesting thing is that they supposedly had white skin and blonde hair. So some people think that they may have been the descendants of Celtic people who might have settled in the area long before the other Europeans. Now that we've got a nice 3D print, if you look at the surface, it's pretty rough. You can see all of the lines from the different layers that are printed down. And to make this look nice, we need to make the whole thing smooth. So that means a lot of sanding, but I want to minimize how much sanding I actually have to do. So I'm going to try a few things. The first thing I did was I sprayed a couple of coats of 2-in-1 primer. It is both a filler and it's sandable. So it'll fill in the cracks in between the different layers. The next thing that I tried was Bondo. Bondo's used for auto repair. Although it worked, it's pretty toxic stuff. You have to wear the proper ventilation. It stinks, and overall it's just not easy to use. So I decided to try wood filler. This worked great. I could just put it on with my fingers and smooth it in. It dried pretty quick, and then I could just sand over the top and get the surface smooth. I used a toothpick to make sure that I didn't lose any of the details that I wanted to keep. Once I filled in all of the major gaps and cracks, then it was time to sand. And I sanded for hours. But instead of showing you hours of me sanding, let's just watch the ocean for a little bit. Now we've got a nice smooth surface, and it's ready for the gold leaf. But the model is hollow, so it's very light, and I wanted it to feel a little heavier so that it will at least have the appearance of being gold. And you'll notice that there's a hole printed in the bottom as well. And like I said before, it's hollow. So what do we fill it with? Well, we fill it with sand, of course. My funnel was too big for the hole, so I used a piece of cardstock and some tape and made a smaller funnel that will go into the hole, and then I stuck the plastic funnel into that funnel, and that allowed me to pour the sand in. After a little bit of patience and some shaking, we got the thing filled with sand, and it's time to seal the hole. I'm going to use the bag of sand as a stand to hold the statue upside down so I can use both hands. And then I'm going to fill that hole with Magic Sculpt. It's a 2-part epoxy resin. You've seen me use it before on other projects. And we just take an equal-sized ball from the 2 parts, mush them together until it's all one color, and then we just mush it into place. And then we just let that dry overnight. Alright, now we're ready to put the gold leaf on. The first thing you do is you coat the surface with a kind of glue called size. This gets tacky when it dries. you'll notice that I start off by diluting my size. It says that you can do that and it's fine, but I found as I went that I preferred to use the size without any dilution. And this particular size has a bluish tint to it while it's wet, and so you can watch for that bluish tint to disappear as it dries. And then you can just touch it and see that it's tacky and dry. And then you're ready to apply the gold leaf. The gold leaf I'm using is not actual gold, it's artificial gold. It's much cheaper. But you'll notice that the gold leaf that I got, several of the sheets came out shattered. This really isn't a problem. It will still work fine, but you're working with much smaller pieces, so it takes a longer time. I actually found later on that these little pieces were useful when I needed to touch some areas up. You'll notice as I go that my technique gets a little bit better. I get better at using the tweezers with my left hand and a soft brush with my right hand so that I can place it where I need to. Applying gold leaf is really satisfying. It's great when you just put it on there and you just touch it and it conforms to the surface underneath. After covering the whole thing with gold leaf, I went back through a couple of times and found places where there were cracks or I could see the surface underneath and just added more gold leaf until I was satisfied that the coverage was complete. The last thing I want to do is spray a couple of coats of glossy polyurethane to protect the surface from scratching. I really had fun learning how to gold leaf, and I'm sure I'll be using it on projects in the future. Speaking of the future, if you want to catch my future videos, make sure that you've subscribed to my channel. And while you're at it, if you liked it, make sure to click the thumbs up button. That lets YouTube know that this video might be interesting to other people as well. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at I'm Not Bored, I'm Creative. I often do updates in between my videos there. And it's a great way to communicate with me if you want to. Thanks again for watching the video, and until next time, don't be bored, be creative.